All right, thanks for joining today. So welcome to Q3 and congrats on a stellar Q2. So exciting to be here, and thank you very much for all of your efforts. I know a lot of blood, sweat, and tears went into the results for Q2, and again, thank you for everything you do on behalf of the company. So today, I know it's been a couple weeks since we had a sales enablement session. That's going to be a recurring theme. Is that I've canceled these sessions the last 2 weeks of every quarter so that you all can focus on closing out business. So for today's session, I'm going to provide selfishly provide you with an enablement update. As of August 1, I'm now 90 days into the role. So I thought for today's session, I'd just cover a couple topics. One is just share some observations, some of the progress from a sales and customer enablement perspective for those first 3 months, and then also share with you a little bit of where am I headed from here? Where are we headed from here? What are some of the things, some of the areas of focus? And then love to open it up for some Q&A. One of the first things you'll notice that I want to bring to your attention is in the invite itself. So I've updated this invite. So at any time, if you want to see the upcoming sessions, just click on this link and you'll have access to this new issue board. So you can see a work in progress of, here's today's session that's scheduled. Once that's closed, I'll put in, the link to the recording. In today's session, there's a link to the slides that we're going. And so once we're done, I'll move that to the closed column. But then all these others that we're considering for future, there are instructions on the website for how to suggest upcoming sales enablement sessions and topics you'd like to cover. And then I'm starting a bi-monthly cadence with sales leadership and some folks from product marketing to where we're going to prioritize and schedule upcoming briefings. So you'll see soon that some of these topics that right now are currently in the plan mode will be scheduled. We'll start to align some dates. I also sent out a notification that we will not have this call next week because it conflicts with the Q3 go-to-market update. So we'll resume in a couple of weeks. All right, so back to the regularly scheduled agenda. So first 90 days, the top priority, which was readily apparent with how much, our hyper growth, how much we're expanding, all the new sales team members, many of you on today's call, but that's been a huge focus, right? How do we accelerate time to productivity for new hires? So I've included some links here that outline the new sales onboarding process, and we'll just cover it here today, right? But now, so it's documented in the handbook. The new sales onboarding process, it's largely focused on the first 4 to 6 weeks and doing discovery with those of you that ramped quickly, culling best practices from the organization and from sales managers. One of the key themes was to accelerate time to productivity. We want to make sure that new folks are comfortable and competent in leading a discovery call and to be customer conversation ready. So there's the new sales onboarding process now consists of, it's about 6 hours worth of self-paced pre-work that can be done online, watching different videos that map to many of these topics. And then Sales Quick Start is the opportunity to actually apply those learnings in a safe environment. So it was great to meet many of you in EMEA last week. We had the second Sales Quick Start in London. And they can share with you that within the first hour of us getting together, we were already doing a mock discovery call, right? So new folks getting a chance to practice and listen to others go through a mock customer simulation. And what better way than to have a safe environment, but a challenging environment to quickly understand, hey, what do I know? What am I comfortable with? What are the things I need to work on, et cetera? So I think we will continue to iterate on the sales onboarding process, but those are some of the things I've been really focused on the first 90 days. In addition, just want to share with you kind of how I'm thinking about this, and this not only informed the efforts with sales onboarding, but this, moving forward, what are the puzzle pieces as we think about, there are so many things that you as sales folks are expected to know and be able to do and to be able to articulate to customers. So if you think about that as a big puzzle piece that everybody's continuing to work on and refine and improve knowledge, improve skills, demonstrate the right behaviors on a consistent basis to produce optimum results, right? To get those outcomes that will help get you paid and help our customers be successful. So through this lens, these are the questions I'm asking, and I'm working with many of you and the tenured folks that have been on the team is to say, help me understand this, right? You know this better than anybody of what it takes to be successful and to look at, a variety of different learning paths that can support you in your professional development. And again, getting those results that we all want. So I also wanted to share other things I've been working on from, calling from my experience from before at Red Hat and places, some key building blocks. One of these is to establish a set of critical GitLab sales skills and behaviors. So apologies for those that have already seen this, but I think this is important is to say, what are the, what is good outside of hitting the number? What are the right skills and behaviors that you as sales professionals at GitLab need to demonstrate? And so I know this is a bit of an eye chart, lots of text, but let me simplify it a bit to say engaging the customer, progressing the opportunity, and closing the deal. These are some of the key behaviors and skills. Over time, you'll see this more, right? I want to infuse this into coaching conversations that you have with your managers. Provide the ability for you to self-assess and to identify, hey, what are the things that you're really good at that you'll continue to leverage to be successful in the role, but then also what are the things that you want to continue to work on. Another key building block is this the sales learning framework. So as I mentioned before, you've got hard roles. I've been in sales before, and I hope I demonstrate that empathy by saying, look, you're expected to know and do a lot for GitLab. And so what I've found to be helpful in before is to break down just the the huge amount of things into these 6 categories. How well do you understand who we're selling to, the personas, the ideal customer profile, industry topics and trends, right? To be a trusted advisor and provide insights to your customers that help them make the right decisions for their future to either increase revenue, reduce costs, or mitigate risk. And then I won't read through all these. What I've done here, for those that haven't seen, so in the handbook, I've organized a lot of the enablement resources and training videos into these categories. So if, here's some links to our buyer personas. Many of these, by the way, are now included in that sales onboarding training issue. So for those new hires, new team members on the call today, hopefully these are familiar by your having gone through your sales onboarding training issue. But then even those that have been here a while, or maybe just a few months that didn't get the new sales onboarding training issue, I encourage you to check these out. I guarantee you I didn't get this right. I'm sure I am missing, awesome resources. So I encourage you to submit merge requests. Reach out to me if there's a key resource that you feel like is missing that should be added here. Where possible, I also included a date stamp and approximately how long each of these resources are so that you can get a sense, before you click on these, if it's a 5-minute video or a 30-minute video, and you can plan accordingly. And the whole idea is consume this at your leisure, on your timeline, when it's convenient for you. But again, we go through industry topics and trends, why GitLab, competition, the portfolio. I know there's lots of interest in, hey, what are the best practices for selling premium and selling ultimate? And we don't have all the artifacts here, but over time, thinking about that puzzle analogy, we'll start to identify what those gaps are that you need to be more successful in your role and build out those resources. Also, this is just but one element, but yeah, a couple weeks ago, just highlighting also during the first 90 days, at least delivered one sales enablement session on social selling basics. So for those that have missed that, this is included in the functional skills section. So again, I'll show this just to connect the dots. So this is, back to that sales learning framework. Functional skills and processes is one key element. So scrolling down here, you'll see videos of how to get started in the chorus, but also here's the social selling basics section. The other thing, so this hasn't been visible yet, but you should all be aware that we're having the force management training at the end of August. So I've also spent a lot of time getting ready for that and working cross-functionally with leaders and other departments to make sure that we deliver against our desired objectives for that. And you see some of them listed here. This is why we're doing the force management effort. This command of the message is all about delivering compelling, value-driven messaging to help kind of up-level those conversations, get away from just speeds and feeds, but really talk about the business problems that we help our customers solve. It's also about operationalizing their MEDPIC methodology for opportunity management and opportunity qualification. I'm not going to go into details here. This is just more of a kind of state of the union update at 90 days, some of the things I've been working on. And this is a little bit, so yeah, we've had some discovery calls just prior to, right when I joined, just prior to contribute. We've done a workshop to start to draft some of the materials. And just 2 weeks ago, a leadership team and cross-functional leadership team met to build out the messaging, build out the content. And we're in the process now of finalizing the output from that to be ready for the end of August, where we'll have the sales training. So it's 2 days for all individual contributors, plus an additional day on the front end for people managers in sales. Following that, training is not an event, right? So for this to stick, we need to think about how we reinforce this, how we sustain this. So you'll hear more details soon about what does that success plan look like. There will be that reinforcement and sustainment following the training in August. So more to come there. So in terms of just, this doesn't include everything, but kind of broad brush, some areas of focus for the second half of the year. Then I'd love to open it up for some questions. A huge focus is on operationalizing the training that we'll be delivering at the end of August about command of the message and MEDPIC. I also, even though I think we've made some great strides thanks to input from many of you, for sales onboarding and sales quick start, onboarding doesn't end after quick start. So my hypothesis, and we'll tease this out by doing some more discovery work, is that the first 30 to 45 days, it's largely every sales role needs to know and be able to do those things to be customer conversation ready. But after sales quick start, I believe that's where role-based enablement is going to be critical, to look at, hey, you as an SA, what are the things you need to know and be able to do and be able to demo, et cetera, to be successful in your role? That's going to be very different from what the puzzle pieces for an SDR look like, or what the puzzle pieces for an enterprise SAL or an SMB customer advocate look like. So to do that, today I'm a team of one, but I am building out the team. And so with additional resources, we'll be able to give more dedicated attention for the specific sales roles. So I'll share that in just a moment of what that looks like. Through these weekly sales enablement sessions, we will continue to evolve and improve just how we go about continuing education. So through these webcasts, also we'll start to build out a strategy and start to execute on an assessment and certification initiatives. The first of which will be tied to force management. So that command of the message, some of those reinforcement activities will have some certification exercises, so you have a chance to practice your mastery of that command of the message, to bridge that knowing doing gap right? To where we get from knowledge transfer, where you hear the training in Dallas. Day 2, you're actually be able to do some role plays with each other, but then actually applying it in the real world is where the magic happens, where it actually becomes, some sustainable behavior that will lead to the desired outcomes that we all want. And then certainly there'll be other things that come up, I'm sure, based on needs of the business, specific business outcomes that we want to positively influence, that we'll then look at, all right, well, how do we, for example, if we're trying to improve average sales price, what specifically can we do from an enablement or training perspective to positively influence that ASP metric? That's just an example. So I think I articulated this earlier, but right, this is the hypothesis, is that the sales onboarding training issue and sales quick start, those are things that every salesperson, regardless of your role, needs to know and be able to do at GitLab. And then after that, forgive the wonky formatting of this manual creation, but this is where some of the learning paths will start to deviate. And that's not only based on your role within the organization and what you're expected to know and do, but it's also based on the rich experiences that you come to GitLab with, right? That you may, for example, if you're already an expert at understanding CI/CD, you don't need to focus on that, right? You can focus elsewhere. So I think another key to this is not only role-based enablement, but really tailored and personalized enablement to support your professional development. So in terms of the team, so right now I mentioned I'm a team of 1. I'm building out program managers, so 3 program managers, one of which will be focused on Mike Powell, supporting Mike Powell and team for the enterprise sales. Another that's actually starting on the 12th of August, so just a couple weeks now, to support Ryan O'Neill and team. And then a third to be hired that we're actually in final discussions now to hopefully identify who this person will be and identify the start date. But this role will focus on Sakamoto's organization with specific focus on SAs and TAMs and their enablement needs. To support these 3 program managers, I'm hiring a trainer, a sales facilitator that will support the delivery of virtual and in-person trainings that we do to support these audiences. And then in Q4, I'll bring on an instructional designer to further support and accelerate how we're able to execute against the requirements that we collectively agree on. In addition to that, we're also working with David Sakamoto and team about having a solutions manager that will look at what is our strategy and plan for delivering customer and partner education. So not only, and looking at what do we do for free, right, to help our customers onboard when they buy from us, but also what are the things that we want to charge for to enrich our portfolio of training offerings, whether that be in-person or web-based, maybe it's online learning subscriptions, and even thinking about certification programs. So just as Cisco has Cisco certified network engineers, we should, let's look at GitLab certified developers, engineers. Is that, what does that look like? So that's a role that I imagine a lot of that for the second half will be strategy and development into coming up with what's the execution plan for FY21 plus. And you see here, these are tentative. All this is subject to change, but looking at eventually adding roles to have better geographic coverage, to have somebody based in EMEA to help support the EMEA and JPAC regions. And then even looking next year of having, as we continue to grow and expand, building out a manager development program to really help with sales coaching and opportunity management, best practices, et cetera. So I recently sent out a survey. Thank you to many of you who responded, asked about, hey, for the sales enablement sessions for Q3, what are the top priorities? And so you see here, only one of these was less than a 2. So what I take from this is like all of these are important topics that we need to eventually make sure we have coverage for. And then these top ones were the ones that have both the highest average and median scores that we'll prioritize getting those on the calendar in the weeks ahead. these are just some of the other topics. There really was a long tail of lots of other suggestions. But these are other things that we'll prioritize. I love this idea of how do we capture some of these compelling customer stories, customer anecdotes that maybe the more tenured reps have just by tribal knowledge. Let's do some interviews with them and have them share some of those anecdotes so that you all can then share those with your customers to get prospects and customers excited about the partnership opportunities with GitLab. So that's it. I talked a little bit more than I intended to, but let me open it up for questions and questions.
Hey, thanks, David. This is Hayden here. On the very, what slide is it? Number 5, the building block slide. Have we put out, I'm wondering if we have a survey that, polled the team for what's one of these behavioral skills or how do we rank the behavioral skills if we have done that or we're planning to? I have my own 2 hot priorities, but I'd be curious to know where, everybody else falls.
Is this the one you're talking about, Hayden?
Yep, that's it.
Yeah, I think there was, before my time, I understand there was somewhat of an exercise to do this, but I definitely want to do this. I don't know exactly what it looks like. This is actually a topic I want to bring up when we've got a call with you and some of your peers in the next week or so to look at, let's do that. Let's do some kind of assessment where we can get a sense of, by organization, by team, what are the areas of focus to help us prioritize, things that we want to work on. But other thoughts from the team? Were you looking, Hayden, to get a sense of what others felt were strengths or areas of opportunity?
How would they rank them? Yeah, exactly. I mean, my top 1 and 2 would be urgency and financial justification. And if on your survey about the topics where the total cost of ownership of Jenkins is number 1, that's why I'd rank financial justification number 1 on this slide. But then basically in parallel, it's urgency. So if you can show that financial justification, then you can basically create urgency. But I'll be curious to know what everybody else thinks. Don't have to do it on this call. Just maybe it's a survey option.
Yeah, that's great.
Okay.
And I think the good news there too is not that any of this is a panacea to solve for stuff, but that's absolutely part of command of the message. Is how do we identify those and build that sense of urgency? Again, it won't solve for it, but it'll definitely address part of that. And I think we can identify, all right, where are the areas that we're just already inherently good? No doubt we can continue to improve, but where are the ones that we really want to double down and focus? So I love that. I love that idea. Yeah, more to come on assessment and getting input from the team. Thanks, Hayden.
Sure. Actually, just an add-on to that, one of the big, shifts that we're trying to make is predictability. And, without urgency, it's very hard to get that predictability. So they go nicely, hand in hand. If you can prove the financial justification, create a sense of urgency because of those financial savings or whatever it is, then you can get some urgency and get more predictability.
Yeah, great point. What's missing from what I shared today? So does anybody say, I can't, David, I can't believe you didn't include blah. What is that? Not necessarily this slide, but what I shared about areas of second half focus, like things that I'm just missing, right? I'm 3 months into this. I'm sure I'm missing stuff. So I'd love to hear from you.
Hey, David, Tom here. I just curious about, we must have some powerful win stories from clients, some of our largest clients, the most successful clients, ones who are, our clients can be our biggest advocates, and they, again, within their domains, are using GitLab in ways that we might not have imagined to attain, competitive advantage. And have we, captured those stories, and can we repeat them?
Yeah, I love that. I've got a meeting with Kim Locke on Monday. I think it's Monday, to talk exactly about that. She's got such rich information of both referenceable and non-referenceable customers. How do we tap into that? So I'm thinking of some panel interviews where we talk about, on these sessions, talk about those customer wins. I hope to, and then also some of the feedback I've heard is not only tell me about how customers are being successful with GitLab, but give me the sales perspective. What was the anatomy of a deal that the account team went through to ultimately close that deal? What roadblocks did they run into? What lessons did they learn that they can share with others to remove those barriers for future sales opportunities? What were some of the deal structure best practices? So I hope to look at it through those lens, like the customer perspective of the win story, but also the account team's perspective of the win story.
Yeah, and a lot of those you mentioned, referenceable or non-referenceable, a lot of times it's just simply anecdotes, and it doesn't necessarily have to be a referenceable. It just has to be, hey, we had a customer who did X, Y, Z, and if it's compelling, then they're going to want to know more, and that's great. If it's not, then you move on to something else.
Yeah, so I love that, Tom. Here's my ask to you all. I know some of you have those golden anecdotes. I'd love to hear from you. Please share with me. What I'd love to do is collect some of those. Again, I'd love to brag on you and have you be the featured person on these sales enablement sessions to share those anecdotes with others. So I'll be looking for volunteers. We may even get multiple people, like a little roundtable discussion, to share some of those. So please reach out to me. Don't be shy. Would love to celebrate your successes and wins. What else? I know we're almost out of time. Any major, if you think of things or just don't feel comfortable sharing them here, please ping me separately. I'd love to hear from you. I'm still gathering information to form thoughts about how I can best help and help the organization deliver the outcomes that you're seeking. So I'd love to hear from you. Any other final comments or questions? Hey, well, thanks, everybody. Let me just again say congrats on a phenomenal Q2. I'm excited to be here. I hope you are as well. And again, genuine thank you for everything you do to make GitLab successful, help our customers. It's very much appreciated. I will talk to you all soon.
Thanks, Dave.
Thank you.